Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up my Serissa japonica. I'm styling this tree to resemble the African Acacia tree. Here is a look at the tree, and you can see I've left it grow to gain vigor, and today I'm going to be pruning it back. With any of my trees, I'm always looking at the design of the tree, trying to keep them miniature looking, and on this tree there's several areas that are maybe needing correction. So I'll be doing that today, and I'll show you some of those areas. I'm looking underneath the tree at the structure, and I have two branches. I have one on the left here and one on the right here that are getting quite thick as the branch gets out towards the edge of the canopy. So I need to prune these branches back and then develop finer branches towards the edge. I don't want one big long thick branch going right to the edge of the canopy. I need finer branching in this area, so it'll involve cutting this branch back to a suitable point and regrowing the structure out to the profile of the canopy. So that's on this branch on the left hand side, and the one here on the right hand side is very similar, that this branch is about the same thickness all the way almost to the edge of the canopy. So I need to prune them back, and it'll set the tree back a bit, but I'm always thinking of the future of the tree, trying to improve it for maybe 5-10 years down the road. I've also been thinking about the canopy, and I've tried several styles of canopy. I've tried a more triangular profile. I've tried it quite flat. I've tried it more rounded. This time what I want to do is to get a thinner layer of foliage on top of the tree. So that will involve, if you look at the side view, instead of rounding the tree in this direction slightly, I'm going to prune it in a flatter shape. That will allow me to get a thinner, denser foliage pad on top of the tree. I think that'll look quite nice. I'm also going to try and get some separation in the branches, so it's not just one big massive foliage up top. I'll show you a top view of the tree. I'm flying in and showing you the top view of the tree, and you can see how dense the branching is. It's just filled in like a hedge. So that needs a lot of thinning out. So I think by the time I've finished pruning this tree, it is going to look very, very different. And it may not look as I said, I may set the tree back a bit, sort of a reset on the structure on some of those branches. And there may be other branches too that I need to, have a look at. Maybe they're getting too thick. I know I took a branch off here before, to kind of thin that out. Some of these branches are quite good. They get quite fine and delicate out towards the outer edges. I think it's just mainly those two, but wherever I can improve the taper of the branches, I'll do that. I have a lot of suckers that have come up from the root base, so those will need to be pruned away. I could, leave one of them and create like a forest, but I don't think I want to on this tree. I just want to keep it as a single tree. In bonsai, this style of tree is called the Pierneef style. It's named after a South African painter who used to paint a lot of trees in the African landscape. And the trees he painted are really captivating. I'll show you a few photos of some of the Pierneef paintings. And the paintings may not be the most realistic in the world, but I think I want to style this tree somewhere in between a Pierneef painting and a real-life acacia tree. So I've gone into my photo editing software and using some AI tools, and what I've done is I've taken some Pierneef paintings and made them look more realistic, and that's through AI. You can have a slider that adjusts. It goes from copying the original painting more precisely, sliding it over to maximum, where it takes that painting and tries to interpret a realistic picture from that painting. So I've done that, and as I said, I think I want this tree to be styled somewhere between a Pierneef painting and a real-life acacia. So I took some photos of acacias into Photoshop or into a photo editing software, manipulated them a bit. Instead of being so flat, I made it a little more rounded. Then I used AI to generate a realistic image. So I'll show you that slideshow now, and you'll get an idea of what style I'm going for this tree. Here's a picture of an acacia tree that I really like the styling of it, that it's got that very thin layer of foliage on top. There's a little bit of foliage under the main canopy, but not a whole lot. And on top, there's a bit of a bit of separation, some branch separation. So that's what I was thinking would look good on my tree, is to have that thin layer up top on the canopy. So if we go now to a Pierneef painting, here's one. You can see it's very similar. It has the thin layer of foliage up top, but the canopy's just a little bit more rounded. And here's another example of a Pierneef painting. And again, you can see the thin layer of foliage, a bit of branch separation, and kind of a rounded arching canopy. So I was looking at that original photo, and you can see it here. It's quite flat on top. It's not as rounded as the Pierneef painting. So I took that photo and I kind of expanded it to the right format for the computer screen here, and adjusted the contrast in that, and then rendered it using AI to get a more crisper image. So here's that image now. And then I thought, well, I'll try rounding the canopy a little more. So I took this image into a photo editing software and I rounded the canopy a bit more. So there it is now. So it's more like the Pierneef paintings. And yeah, so that's kind of the style that I want my tree to look like. At least at this present time. I'm going to try it out. And I may change my mind in the future. I may try another restyle into something slightly different, but I think this will look really good. So I'll show you what AI can do now. So I'll show you, there's the original Pierneef painting, which is, you can see it's not the computer screen format. So I took that painting into a photo editing software and I kind of cloned the background to make it the format of my computer screen. And then I took it into an AI program and made it go from looking like a painting to a sort of, I wouldn't call it photoreal, but a more realistic image where you can see the bark texture on the trunk. You can see individual leaves in the foliage in the canopy. So it's very similar to the original painting, but maybe it looks like a different style of painting. So there's that one. And then we have the other Pierneef painting. And I did the same thing. I expanded the background, stretched it out so it fills the computer screen. And you can see, above the tree there's a cloud lit up by sunlight. So let's see what AI did with that. So here it is. So you can see it detailed the clouds. It did a little, it's a little strange, the background clouds, but the trees look quite realistic. You can see the sun shining on the one side of the tree. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. So AI takes something like a painting and turns it into something that's more of a realistic image. I'm going to begin the pruning by correcting those two branches, the one on the left and the one on the right. So these are big cuts. Pretty scary to do on a mature, well-developed tree, but it's something that needs to be done. It's just getting too thick out at the edge of the canopy. So I'm looking for a suitable place to cut this branch back, somewhere where there's a new leader that I can develop. I could at least take it to here. that might be a good place to start. I'll start there. So here I go. This is a big cut coming up. So I want to get in at a good angle here. Right about there. Oh, here I go. Big cut coming up. Oh, just like that. So I took off the whole end of that branch. Oh my goodness. So you could see how thick it was out at the edge of the profile. So that is gone. How does it look? I think it looks better. There's also an upper portion developing on this branch that's getting quite thick. So let me address that. I'm going to prune this one back. This one back. And yeah, I think these branches that are growing upwards can be taken back at least to here, taking that off, and maybe even further. I'm just kind of roughly pruning this area to give me an idea of where I'm at. And there'll be more pruning coming, but I just want to see what this branch is looking like now. Okay. Yeah, it was a big cut. So on my cut point, it's a good clean cut. I'm going to seal it with rubber cement just so it doesn't dry out and cause dieback on the branch. So I've got my rubber cement here, and I'll just seal that wound up. I just drip rubber cement everywhere. Let me try that again. I had too much on my finger. There, so that's all sealed up. Okay, so it's a pretty big wound, but you know, it'll heal around there. Okay, so let's do the branch on the other side now. So this is the branch here. So I have a good leader here, so I can take off this section. And again, this is a pretty big cut. So I'll come in here and just see how I can get in here. I guess I'll have to come from this direction. All right, here I go. Big cut coming up. Done. Just like that. Wow, that took a lot off. You can see that branch, how thick it was, right to the edge of the canopy. So now, those branches have a lot more taper. And they're not so dominant. They thin out towards the edges. Yeah, this branch looks pretty good now. I like it. This one, I'm wondering if I should take it back further. It is still quite thick here, and I have a branch coming out the front here, and behind that I have a nice branch. So I'm debating on taking this whole end off once again, taking it back further. I know if I don't, I'll regret not taking it back further in the future. So I better do that. I better take it back further. Okay. So I'm taking I'm using this as my branch leader now, so I'm taking it back another kind of internode. Oh, here I go. Another big cut coming up. Here I go. Done. Taking that off. You can see how thick it was. It leaves, you know, kind of a big hole here, but that fills in quickly as branches grow into the light. So once again, I will seal that cut up. Yeah, I think that's better. I think that was a good decision. It took off that kind of heavy section of the branch here. So I'll seal that up also, that wound. Just like that. Here's a look at the tree now. So from above you can kind of see where that branch was. And on this side maybe you can see where the branch was there, but it's not too bad. It's better than I expected. So here is what I took off. So you can see some very heavy branches. Branch tips. So these would make excellent cuttings if they root. It wouldn't hurt to try. So I will. I'll stick them in some soil and yeah, see what happens. I've got a pot to plant the cuttings in, so I kind of stripped off the lower branches on the cuttings. And I'll plant them quite deeply. So here goes the first one. Right down to the foliage. Number 2 can be planted over here. And again, I'll plant it quite deeply to get it to root. And number 3 can come up here. And I'll give them a watering. So here I go. And I'll keep them in the greenhouse here on the floor of the greenhouse where they'll stay fairly cool. It's a bright location and there's good humidity. So we'll just see what happens. If they root, they root. If they don't, they don't. There's no harm in trying. And that should be good. I think that's all the big cuts I'll be doing on the tree today. The rest of the pruning will be a little more moderate, pruning back the new growth and creating some definition in the branches. Now it still will be quite a hard pruning on the tree. It's a good time of the year, kind of early summer. It's got many months to grow and recover. And I think by fall the tree will look quite presentable once again as a show tree. So I think the next step is to get out the blue scissors and prune the profile. And again, I'm going to make it flatter across the top. So from the side view, I'm going to have less rounding and it'll be flatter. So that way it'll allow me to get that thin foliage pad in the arc shape from the front. So here I go. I am going to begin shearing it now to shape. So I think the first thing I want to do is determine my highest point on the tree. I do want some curvature left to right, but not much front to back. So it's going to be a very flat cut. So I'll just start. So here I go. There's a lot of long shoots sticking up here. Ooh, it smells horrible. Oh, yeah, it doesn't smell good, this tree. Not when you prune it. Okay, starting to get there. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to prune it flat. Trying to avoid curvature. Get rid of some of these really long ones so I can see the shape a bit better. Okay, so I'm looking at the side view, so I want to make it level and horizontal, so I'm heavy at the back here. That's looking more parallel with the surface of the soil. Now I'm starting to take it back further, reducing the height at the highest point here. Okay. Well, you can definitely see I'm flattening out the top here. So now I'm going to come back even further, and I have to be careful. It's my natural instinct to put a bit of a curvature into it, but I've got to avoid that, which is hard to do. So I'm looking at the branch structure up top. I don't think I want to go back any further than that. I'm starting to get down into some of my more woody growth, so I think that's got the height of the tree set. And you can see it's quite flat. So now I've got to round the outer edges. Yeah, so I've got to start my curvature. And this will only be in the front and back view that you see this curvature. From the side, it'll be very flat. So here I go, keeping my scissors parallel. I'm still a little high at the back here. Yeah, I think after today the tree is going to look quite different, and I hope it looks better. I think it'll really look good once I get that really thin foliage pad up top. This one could be pruned back. Oof. So there's where I'm at so far. It's not very rounded yet, but it's getting there. Bit more off here. Some more off here. Now I've got to kind of study it from all angles. Okay, I think I better step back and have a look at it. Here is a look at the tree now from the front. I can see I'm heavy here. Needs to be rounded more. Definitely the edges need to be thinned. They're too thick on the edges. I think before I do that, I should probably do a profile prune from above, getting the oval shape of the canopy set before I start thinning the edges out. So let's do that next. All right, I'm looking from above now, checking out the profile. And I usually use the edge of the pot as a guide. You can kind of see the oval shape of the pot, and I want the top view of the tree to match that shape. So you can see I've got a bit of a hole here, but here I go. And the purpose of this is to grow the canopy out evenly, so you don't have one branch growing more vigorously than all the other branches. Same, you know, the whole profile of the canopy is I prune it to grow it out evenly. So this has to be cut back here. Getting quite long here. Now, where am I at? Now, I'm a little long here still. Now, I'm still heavy here, lighter here, and heavier here, so I'm going to take that back a bit further. That's better. Go off here, go off here. Well, that's getting pretty close. Maybe as much as I can do. Yeah, I think that'll do. Okay, back onto the bench it goes. Here is a look at the tree now. The other thing I noticed is that I've always left this side of the tree a little longer than this side to kind of balance the composition, and I'm thinking I'm getting a little too far out of symmetry, that it's getting too long on this side. So I'm going to bring this back. So here I go. Again, pruning rounded in my front view, but in the side view, I'm pruning flat to get that thin foliage layer on top of the tree. There's a big branch there I gotta prune back. Now, let me have a look from the front again. Well, that's helping for sure. Could still be taken back a little further. I don't want to sacrifice the shape too much, but Okay, I'm going to improve the profile now. It's I've got to thin out my edges more, work on that. So here I go. So I'm definitely too thick here, so I need to take this back, and I've got to make sure I keep it flat. And this flat thinning of the canopy may take a while before, you know, I get my final shape looking good, because I am a little too rounded at the front here. So I need to let some of these branches grow up and thin it from underneath to get it flatter, get my foliage pad thinner. But it'll get there. As long as you have a goal in mind for your tree, generally they get there. Just kind of refining that flat shape on top. Okay, it's getting pretty close. I'm still a little high here. Now, okay, next, I've got all these suckers growing up at the base of the tree. I want to clean those up. That'll give me a better look at the actual tree and see what it's looking like, the root base and everything. So let's do that next. Okay, here I go. So cleaning up all these shoots. So the tree's really healthy this year. It's looking good. So it had the cold dormant period over winter in the basement, chilling at around 10 or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius, to about 12 degrees Celsius, so maybe 55 or so Fahrenheit. So a cool winter. It has its own grow light above it, so it's under lights in the winter, and it grows a little bit but not very much. It basically stays dormant all winter. And it's really good because these are a temperate tree. They need a rest period in the winter to flower and stay healthy long term. I'm sure you could grow it without a rest period, but they generally prefer to have a cool winter. So I think it's time to clean the tree up a bit and start the branch pruning, the detail branch pruning. So that will take a while to do. I've got to study each branch. I've got to follow each branch out, wiggle it, see what foliage is attached to it, and prune them so they're not overlapping, and prune them so there's space between each of the branches, so it doesn't look like a dome canopy. You can see the actual individual branch structure. It's funny, these are my original tweezers. It was one of the first bonsai specific tools I bought, and I really like them. They're great tweezers, and I lost them. I lost them about 10 years ago. I had no idea where, and I was sad because, you know, I've been using them for a long time. So I went out and bought another pair tweezers. They're a little longer, not much. And then my wife was digging in the front garden, and she was shoveling soil out, and deep in the soil she found these pair of tweezers. So these have been buried in the soil for about 10 years. So I have a backup pair and my new pair now. So I'll just clean up all this debris that's fallen down here, and a lot of it I can just kind of blow away. It is definitely getting darker out now. The sun is setting. It was a beautiful day today. So here is the Serissa. The progress so far for today. So I can see, depending what angle I view the canopy at, I can see there's maybe a little more refining to the overall shape. And then tomorrow I'm going to be coming in and separating the branches, so it's not just one big dome like a hedge. So I have some branch structure, so when you view it from the front you'll see hopefully some separation between the branches from the front also. I think it'll really help kind of miniaturize the tree a bit more. And I think that'll take a long time tomorrow. It'll be a detailed pruning, so I'm really looking forward to it. I never thought I'd be using AI image tools in Bonsai, but today I did. It allows you to take like a quick sketch of a tree, a bit of coloring and shading on it, and then you can digitally AI enhance it, and it'll fill in all the fine details. If you do like a really bad Photoshop job on your tree, maybe, trying to see what it would look like in the future with a wider canopy or a taller canopy, it turns a bad photo job, it can make it look quite good. So there is some good use for AI technology in imaging for bonsai. So tomorrow will be an exciting day getting this tree all refined and looking good. And that's all for part 1 of this series. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.